i-netradio.com. i-netradio.com. Dobry den, I Dobropa Jalabat. This is Springtime in Moscow with your host, James Tuthill, and I'm Stephen Stimson. We've got some Russian with a little American, and we're serious with a little humor. So, Jim, what is happening in the world today?
Thank you, Steve, for the nice introduction. I'm Jim Tuthill, and this is Springtime in Moscow. Today, here on i-netradio.com, we have Jake Danishevsky and we have Mike Morton. We are going to be talking about the track record of the Obama administration. And these two guys, it'll be interesting to hear what they have to say. Jake and Mike, how are you today?
Good, Jim. How you doing?
Good.
I'm good, Jim.
Good. Jake, you're in New Jersey, and Mike, you're where?
Jacksonville, Florida.
Jacksonville, Florida. God, it doesn't get any better than that. You just want to get out a set of golf clubs and head to Ponte Vedra. Yes.
There you go.
Yes. Okay. All right. I have given you a little article on President Obama's top 50 accomplishments. There are thousands of accomplishments that he's had in the last 4.5 years, but I've only given you the top 50, and in fact, I only gave you the top 21, okay? Because we could be here for weeks talking about the accomplishments of the Obama administration, and we only have an hour for this show. Okay. According to this article, I think it's sort of by order of importance, the way I looked at it. The number one accomplishment of the Obama administration is passing health care reform. And this is true. Many presidents, including Republican presidents, Democratic presidents, I think it started longer than 5 presidents ago. I think President Truman and President Eisenhower were in on the act, according to my memory of history. But this says after 5 presidents failed to create universal health insurance, the Affordable Care Act was signed into law. And it will cover 32 million uninsured Americans beginning in 2014. And it is going to cut health care cost growth, the number one cause of America's long-term fiscal problems. And as you know, when this law is touted, they talk about the fact that you can get insurance even if you have a pre-existing condition. There are no lifetime caps on this type of insurance. And you're going to have exchanges and pools so that the insurance companies have to compete against each other, which hopefully will make the price of insurance go down. Jake, let me start with you. Do you want to applaud and commend the Obama administration for passing health care reform?
Well, Jim, you know how I feel about Obama administration and reform. It's a strong word to use, reform, because it was not a reform. If you wanted to reform our healthcare system, you wanted to take what we already have and make it better. You did not have to create a program that even the Democrats in California say will raise our insurance costs by 140%. In California, Democrats in the California government estimated that it will cost them 140% of current prices to insure people. Now, you tell me, is a program like that a reform? Not to mention that even Obama administration is now not able to control it, and they want to push a mandate for the businesses 1 year back. Why? Because they're afraid that if they implement it right now, besides the fact that they have no idea how to run it and it's unsustainable, they actually want to push it 1 year back, because if they do not, they will lose 2014 election, because nobody wants this program. Democrats don't want it, Republicans don't want it. Why? Because we're all American, and American people will never benefit from a program that will cost us more than we can handle. Not to mention, it's not going to be 30 million gaining insurance. It's going to be more than 30 million losing insurance because of different companies dropping their own policies they have right now.
Jake, we're going to play a little, I don't know if it's a game tonight, but we're going to do something a little different. We're going to pretend that we're back in elementary school, maybe even high school. And I'm going to ask you to give a report card on these various accomplishments from A, B, C, D, and F. F means a failure, and you know what A, B, C, D mean. Okay, from A to F, how would you rate the passing of the health care reform, or I think it's called the Affordable Care Act? What grade would you give it?
It's an unaffordable healthcare tax. It was passed as a tax. It's a F. It's a failed policy. It will never survive. It will implode before it even starts.
Can I get an F plus out of you?
F minus.
Thank you. Okay, Mike, I'm going to pose the same question to you. What do you think about the passage of the health care reform and the Affordable Care Act? What do you think?
Well, first off, passing this as a tax obviously is the only way it could get through the courts. For it to be pushed back now for another year, like Jake was talking about, in order for corporations to get in line, so Obama doesn't see one of two things: a huge layoff across the country that shows all the quantitative easing he's been doing by buying notes and manipulating the stock market to give the illusion that we're doing good, and then all of a sudden there's no jobs out there for anybody. That's number one. Number two.
Okay, Mike, just let me stop you there 1 second, just to clarify for our listeners. When you say push it back 1 year, what you're really talking about is that these small businesses do not have to get on board at least for a year, right?
That's correct. That's
correct.
The
whole program hasn't been pushed back, just that part.
Well, yeah, that part. But now the House is stating that, you're going to be discriminating. This is the words of the House: discriminating against corporations and individuals, when individuals are the people that have to pay out of their own pockets, and employers pay a hefty sum, but yet they get a kickback on taxes and things like that. So it's almost not fair. So if I were to give a grade to this, let me do my second part of this, by the way.
Sure.
So the second part of this is, as he was saying, Jake said about the elections. They realized that the elections were coming up, and so they're having to kind of wiggle around and make sure that they have corporations on board, and obviously so they don't have a mass layoff and hysteria across the country. So those are the two reasons. My grade is not going to be A, B, C, D, or E, or F. It's going to be incomplete, because so far it's incomplete. They don't have anything that's remotely close to Affordable Care Act, number one. They don't have anything remotely close to anything that resembles a reform, and then they also don't have anything that closely resembles somebody looking out for the better interest of the American people. It's more of somebody looking out for themselves, and that would be Obama.
Well, hopefully I'll be on the air in 5 years if things go well. And maybe I can get you back on the air in 5 years, and we'll look at it if it's still incomplete or if it's a complete A, B, C, D, or F. Okay.
And I would gladly take that challenge because at this time you can't base a lot of things on what presidents do in their specific time. You have to wait for a couple of years to go by to realize if what they did was good or not. So I would gladly take that challenge.
I read an article on that on Monday about how long historians have to wait to really judge a presidency. And I don't know, they seem to be talking about between 10 and 20 years. So I don't know. Some people, I remember a few years ago, it said it took 50 years to judge an administration. So I don't know. We shall see. Only the historians, I guess, can tell us, but it will be interesting.
Can I just intervene for a second?
Sure.
I want to applaud Mike on how he phrased it, and incomplete is actually a much better grade, because we honestly don't know how bad this policy is. We can. I take my F minus back, because Mike is absolutely right.
So it's complete on being bad. It's just incomplete on how bad.
Right. We will not find out until we actually see. Families will be suffering tax-wise. There will be penalties. How can you put a penalty on something that's good for you?
Okay. Jake, is there any chance that when President Obama runs for a third term that you'll vote for him?
No, because it's unconstitutional, first of all.
Well, yeah.
I mean, but this president has done so many unconstitutional things that we're going to discuss today that I guess he will try.
Well, if he gets the military behind him, he can go for a third term. Okay.
I doubt military will stand behind him.
The heck with the Constitution. Okay.
Sure. Sure, of course. I mean, why
Yes.
don't we just live by the laws of whoever's in charge? So, why didn't you listen to Bush when Bush wanted to do things?
Well, it works in Egypt, Jake. It works in Egypt.
Egypt is exploding right now. I mean,
Yes.
Obama administration really spit against the wind on that one.
Yes. Okay, number two. And I do want to preface this with one thing. And I don't attack George Bush. I do think he made one huge blunder going into Iraq, but I don't think that George Bush was a bad human being. Okay?
He meant well, and I agree with you. Iraq was a mistake. He even admits
Yes.
himself it was a mistake. But listen, we're not right or left. We're American, and what's
Yes.
best for
No,
America?
I agree with you, so I don't really attack him. But the
Okay.
number two accomplishment, according to this article, is that President Obama got through a $787 billion stimulus and called the American Recovery and Reinvestment Act in 2009. I just want to remind the listeners, in all factual candor, that President Bush had also gotten through a stimulus bill. I can't remember if his was called TARP or what his was called, but it was also up there in I think close to $700 billion. Okay. This article says that this act, prodded along by Mr. Obama and enacted by the Congress, was used to spur economic growth amid the greatest recession since the Great Depression. Weeks after the stimulus went into effect, unemployment claims began to subside. 12 months later, the private sector began producing more jobs than it was losing, and it has continued to do so. And this article was written in 2012 for 23 straight months. So you can add another year of months, creating a total of nearly 3.7 million new private sector jobs. Okay, Jake, do you think Mr. Obama was right or wrong to go for the stimulus?
Absolutely wrong. So was Bush.
And tell me
And
why.
I will tell you why. You cannot spend yourself out of a problem. See what they did? They took the money that we really we're not supposed to spend. They took tax money and they threw it at the companies that were in trouble. The companies held no responsibilities. The companies held no restructure or proper bankruptcy. And basically, some of those companies got a first stimulus. They got a second stimulus. They gave out bonuses while the tax money was pouring into those companies. As I like to call it, and I might have said it before, it's like taking a Band-Aid and put it on a gushing wound. We had a problem, and instead of letting the problem properly restructure, properly take responsibility, we dump money into it, and we dump money into it that we didn't even have. Now, as far as other things,
No. But let me stop you there, just for our
no, jobs.
listeners. No,
Jobs.
just for our
Oh,
listeners. When you use the word properly restructure, can you define that for our listeners?
yes.
What should have happened? What should have been done?
Yes, when a company gets in trouble, they file Chapter 11. They go through proper restructuring. They cut out the inefficient, costly things that the company might have not needed in the first place. They declare bankruptcy, and they basically downsize. Sometimes taking a step back for a company will mean that in the future they'll take a step forward. I don't have an exact example, but I remember a couple of companies doing that and then coming out even better without the stimulus, without anything, because the company will downsize. They'll cut out inefficient assets, legs of the company. They'll cut out inefficient people in the company. They will go within their means, and then they'll start growing again. And sometimes the company gets even bigger than before.
Twinkies. Look at Twinkies, Jake. Last week, Twinkies came back.
Well, I'm just saying I don't remember exact companies, but I heard some of the companies did that, and I don't remember which ones. But it was a success every single time, because you do not just take money and dump it into already existing problem, because the company has no responsibility to do proper things and run the company efficiently, and
Okay,
that creates
so
a bigger problem.
Jake, just for the listeners, believe me, there's a little bit of a debate on this in the law and the Constitution, but can the federal government go bankrupt? I mean, file for bankruptcy and
I hope
support?
not. I hope not. But you know what? We're right now 17, almost, what is it, 17 trillion in debt. Now, if tomorrow China decides to sell our debt to some nation that doesn't hold American interest at heart, and China doesn't hold our interest at heart, our dollar could drop and dollar could be inexistent. I mean, we don't realize how bad the problem is because we don't care from day to day. But right now, the government in the stimulus under Bush, I did not agree under Bush, I did not agree under Obama. The government went ahead and just dumped taxpayers' money into a problem. It's like a black hole. They just dumped and dumped and dumped.
Okay. And what grade would you give the Obama administration for the stimulus?
I'll give both Obama and Bush F.
Okay.
F. I don't agree with this policy completely.
All right. And I take it in the future you wouldn't want to see it happen again if we hit a crisis.
No. Let the company that caused the crisis go bankrupt.
You're talking like AIG should have gone down the drain.
AIG, Bear Stearns, any of them, Lehman Brothers, any of them who were putting themselves in trouble and continue doing so. Look at AIG, perfect example you just brought up. Bush gave them money, then Obama gave them money, then Obama gave them more money, and they sent their executives on the retreat with the money that they should have put back in the company, supposedly. But because they were irresponsible already, why would they be responsible if they're getting all this money? Why didn't a small business get the money when they're not able to survive? They gave too big to fail companies taxpayers' money. Shouldn't taxpayers have some say in this? If we're dumping money into companies that are failing and miserably?
Well, they did let Lehman Brothers go down the drain.
Well, they did, but some of the companies they saved, and I don't know if they were worth saving because, see, we did not create jobs.
Okay.
Media says we created jobs, but if you look at the numbers, we didn't really create any.
Well, before I turn this over to Mike, I have one last question. What do you think would have happened if they had let AIG and Bear Stearns and the banks, there were some big banks that got some big money. What do you think would have happened if they had not given the money to those banks and let everything go down?
One of two things. Those companies would have failed and some other companies would have picked up the slack, or those companies would have taken responsibilities, restructured properly, came back and did the business properly so they can survive and make money and expand again. And some companies, like I said, did do it and they thrived afterwards because they got rid of the loose weight that was basically draining money instead of making money for the company.
Okay. Mike? According to Paul Glastris, Ryan Cooper, and See You Who. I love that name, See You Who. These are the three people that wrote Obama's top 50 accomplishments. I love names that rhyme. What do you think about the stimulus? Was it good or bad, Mike?
Well, first of all, I look at stimulus like a giant welfare program for corporations. Okay, number one. And the thing is here is we have somewhere in, I think it's over $2 trillion in poverty, but we've only spent $787 billion in stimulus for Obama's term. But you got to take it back further than that. Back in the housing bubble, this is what really sent everything downhill. The housing bubble, we had AmeriQuest and Countrywide and these mortgage companies taking out insurance companies on appraisals that actually were not fit to go ahead, and they were actually taking out insurance companies to cover their own loans. So they were betting against their own selves, and they were sending what they call a snap appraisal, where they take a satellite view of the house and they put an appraisal number on it, and that based on comps that sold around it, instead of actually having an appraiser go out to the house and look at the house, look at everything in it, and make sure that it's worth what it is. I mean,
well, there was one worse thing, Mike. They didn't get income verification either.
Well, yeah, exactly. But that's my point is that they're doing these no-doc loans and they're doing these appraisals, and then they have the insurance companies like AIG and all these other companies taking out insurance on companies on homes to fail. And when they do fall, what happens? They send all the money back to the banks that already have the money that they've already wasted, and so they're not really that bad off. I think that the homeowner that was duped should have got a stimulus more importantly than all these corporations. I know there was a stimulus rolled out in taxes and things like that, but the money didn't go to the right places and didn't get put in the right hands, and therefore we have a huge welfare program for corporations. So
okay.
If you want,
Mike, let me ask you a question. Jake talked about the irresponsibility of these companies, and you brought up Countrywide. Certainly not a paragon of virtue, Countrywide Financial. But I will say this. they could, and I guess did, rely on the rating services such as Moody's and Standard & Poor's, I forget the other one, who were giving these bundles of mortgages, I think, AAA ratings.
Yeah, they were. They were giving them AAA ratings, but again, you have it's no different from what's happening in the stock market right now for quantitative easing to make the dollar worth more than it should be. And it's nothing different than saying, okay, our unemployment rate's down at this percentage, but we're not counting the people that are working part time, or we're not counting the people that are on government assistance. We're counting just people that are out of a job that were having a job. So it's a big, all it is. It's a simple, I guess you could call it a influx of numbers here and an influx of numbers there to make the common answer what you want it to be, and that's what they're passing it out. So yes, they're basing it off a AAA rating and they're sending it out. But the problem is that when the housing market fell, people knew about it. People knew it was going to happen. People knew the bubble was going to burst. They didn't say anything because there's certain laws that say there's no insider trading and stuff like that. But somebody knew to get insurance on these homes. So there was a breakdown in communication. Then there was, let's just, as Jake's analogy, put a Band-Aid on a gushing wound to see what we can do. And that's what the stimulus was. It was not even a Band-Aid. It was a plastic staple. It was ridiculous.
Well, let's think about that for 1 second, Mike. In the Clinton administration, they started a law that wanted to give mortgage money to many, many more people, middle-class people. And they sort of did away with a lot of the standard requirements to get mortgages, including submitting your income tax returns, income verification, maybe even filling out an application. You talk about appraisals from the sky. Okay, you're probably right. All right. About 10% of the bad loans were given out in the Clinton administration. Maybe that's because there were only a few years left in the Clinton administration. I have no idea, but I think that was the case. Then when Mr. Bush came in, I think the remaining 90% of this mortgage procedure or mortgage money was handed out. Okay. But you have a situation of two things, and I want to get back to Jake's responsibility or irresponsibility. These companies did two things. They relied on rating services, which we've done in the United States since the 1930s. And number two, I think it's prudent and cautious and in accord with your fiduciary obligations to get insurance. I don't see anything wrong with taking out insurance. Okay.
I don't either.
I don't know. Did they act irresponsibly?
No, what I'm saying is I don't say it's no harm taking out insurance, but when you're taking out insurance on other people's homes en masse, that's a problem. Like we're talking about a company, an insurance company that has underwriters taking out. They see these what they call a subprime loan that'll never fly, and they look at the loan and say, okay, this is not going to work. So every subprime loan that came through the gates got insurance tagged to it. So there was no money really lost, and except for the homeowner not paying off the foreclosure, because that's essentially what happened to them. They should have never been approved in the first place, but they were because we were relying on the AAA rating, and we were relying on most people ran every time the interest rates got to a certain level, everybody ran to refinance or buy a new home or whatever the case may be. But the problem is that it was our credit scores, everybody that lived in America, credit scores that we had, that was the score they should have been relying on, not the AAA rating that everybody else relies on. And so when that happened, AIG and other companies alike, that's why there was there was all these conversations about, why there's no heads rolling and things like this, because there was companies out there doing this, making money off of other people's mistakes, on other people's issues. You have a bad month, you lose money, whatever happens, you lose your job. But now AIG has an insurance policy on your home, and they lose no money at all, and then they get money given back to them because all they got to do is write it off on a shell company saying that money was to a different insurance company. That's why they got hit. So AIG got hit so hard in the media as well, is because they were doing a lot of things that not a whole lot of people knew that they were doing. Okay, I'm going to pose the same question to you as I did to Jake. What do you think would have happened if the Obama administration had not doled out this stimulus money? Well, I think that what would have happened is we would have simply had to point the finger at the AIG and say, all those insurance companies, all those insurance policies you wrote on these homes, I think it's time for you to use that money wisely instead of putting it and paying off all of your executives millions of dollars and billions of dollars at max for all of them, and give that money to people who really need it instead of people just sitting up there eating pork by the pound. So at the end of the day, I think that it should have been up to AIG. If they saw this coming, they should have done something about it instead of trying to be greedy and take the money in themselves and not actually help the homeowner, and then hold their hand out whenever the homeowner has no money left and say, give me your money. Bush should have known better. Clinton should have known better, and Obama should have known. All of them should have known better. So I think that at the end of the day, the stimulus was a mistake across the board. I think that it was irresponsible, and I think that these insurance companies may be a good idea if the public knows about them, and it may be a good idea to help the homeowner versus the government. So
Mike, I don't know if you saw the movie or not. I saw the movie. But in the movie, Secretary of the Treasury Paulson, and I realize movies have dramatic license. I understand that. But in the movie, the Secretary of the Treasury, Mr. Paulson, dreamed this up himself. It wasn't Mr. Obama that did this. Or anybody, but he said that I guess back in I forget, Bush or I think Paulson was with Bush. He said if we don't throw this stimulus money out, it will be the ruination of the American economy.
Too big to fail. They looked at it. I'm sorry, I'm intervening, but they looked at it like it's going to become an American problem. But the problem is, you know how on this show previously we talked about capitalism, and Steve is not here today, but Steve constantly says that capitalism is evil. Well, in this case, it was not capitalism. It was lack of capitalism because the government got involved. The government said that these companies can never fail, otherwise America will go down. And basically the government intervened and they decided to put themselves in these companies. Obviously, if the companies gain millions of dollars, they're not going to say no. But if we let the capitalism truly work, we would have let those companies do what they need to do, otherwise let them fail. And I guarantee you that half of those companies would have survived. Maybe they would have been a better company, but now it's like a kid that's breaking a vase and you give him $1 to go buy candy. He's going to break another vase.
All right.
Basically, lesson learned.
Mike, what's your report card on the stimulus under the Bush administration?
I'd give it.
The Obama administration.
Okay, well, on the Bush administration, I'll go ahead and give you that one too. I'll give that a D, and on the Obama right now an F.
Okay, not even an F plus. All right.
No, I don't do minus or plus. I'm a straight shooter.
Okay, I'm gonna skip number 3 because it's a little complex, but I'm gonna put number 4 and 5 together under this article. The Obama administration's top 50 accomplishments, number 4, they ended the war in Iraq. They ordered all U.S. military forces out of the country. The last troops left on December 18, 2011. And number 5, the administration began a drawdown of the war in Afghanistan, which is still continuing, even though this has been written a year before. And it looks like the combat mission will be over, I think, at the beginning of 2014. Okay, Jake, what do you think about the Obama administration ending the war in Iraq and beginning the drawdown in Afghanistan?
Well, first of all, I mean, the war might have been a little bit of a mistake. Whether or not it was right or wrong, and whether or not they had weapons of mass destruction, we did go to this war.
Now, you're on the Iraq war, just so we're clear.
Iraq war. We went to Iraq war with the congressional approval. I'm gonna bring something else in here in a second, just because it's related. Obama removed the troops. Whether he did it properly or improperly, I'm not a military person, but look at Iraq. It's a melting pot. You got Al-Qaeda in there. You got Iran now muscling in there. You got a whole bunch of mess in there. Afghanistan. We said to Taliban, we're going to remove the troops by this and this date. Now, we telegraphed our move, and I know from my martial arts experience, if you telegraph your move, your opponent will know what to do next. So what did the Taliban do? They sat and waited until we remove our troops so they can basically fill in the vacuum again. Now, let's say those wars, Afghanistan, Obama said it's a just war. So Obama supported that, supposedly. Iraq, Let's say Obama didn't support it. Now it's a bigger mess. But let's say those wars were a mistake. Bush went to Congress. Bush went to our allies. Bush went to everybody, got approval before he did anything. So now, if we're gonna give one man credit or say that one man made a mistake, in Obama's case, he never makes a mistake because it's always a joint effort. But in Bush's case, we say Bush made a mistake, but at least Congress approved it. When Obama went to Libya, and we saw what happened in Benghazi. Obama actually went to Libya without congressional approval because he said it's not a war. Even though he bombed the crap out of them, he created no-fly zone, and he was helping the allies not to have a war. So, I mean, you want to talk about wars? I mean, Obama got a peace prize.
Jake, let me ask you, in all honesty, do you think what the Obama administration did in Libya is actually the definition of a war?
Well, we never actually said it's a war, but if you're bombing and if you're creating no-fly zone and if you basically helping with air support, what do you call it? I don't know. You tell me.
Well, you know, in World War II, they used to call them expeditionary forces. They didn't call them a war; they called them expeditionary forces.
Nowadays they call them strategic responses because they don't want to just like they don't want to say terrorists, they call it man-caused issue. It's just it's semantics. It's all it is.
It's all it is. Yeah, and
right.
also
Jake, I want to stick with you. Now I'm going to break this down into two parts.
Let me finish. And also we removed Gaddafi. Great. So who did we assist? We assisted the same people that were killing our men and women in Afghanistan. Well, we assisted our enemy. We took one animal to let the other animal take place, and look at what happened in Benghazi.
Okay, so I'm going to break this down. What's the report card for getting out of Iraq?
Getting out of Iraq, I'll give him a D. I mean, we had to get out of Iraq. The way he did it, a lot of generals and military support did not approve because we did not do it right. I don't know what was the right way to do it. I'm not a military person. But now we create a vacuum that was filled by a bunch of animals running around with weapons and grabbing power, and it's a mess. It's a mess.
Did I hear D as in dog or B as in boy?
No, D as in dog, as in my last name.
Okay. And what do you give the drawdown of the troops in Afghanistan?
Afghanistan, we telegraphed to our enemy what we're going to do. And we apologized to Karzai for something that we should have never apologized. I don't even know what grade to give it. Like Mike said, incomplete would probably be the worst grade and not even close.
Okay. All right, Mike, I turn it over to you. Did the Obama administration do something good or bad by getting out of Iraq? Good or bad on withdrawing the troops from Afghanistan?
Okay, well, first of all, I want to look at the Iraq War in terms of should we even have been there. My answer is no. We probably should have never went to Iraq. Obviously there was a dictator there committing genocide. So based on crossing the red line for him killing his own people is the only reason why we should have been there, and that should have been done in the Reagan era. But we were too busy with the Cold War, or it should have been done during Clinton or Bush Sr., but it wasn't done. Yeah, I don't think that there was any reason for us to be there. Just in the fact that we're after Osama bin Laden, our trade towers hit the ground, and now we're into the point to where we're just have a lot of just rubble, and then so we go to Afghanistan and we try to transition them into a better turnaround. It doesn't work too well there either. So I think for taking our forces out of Iraq and our forces out of Afghanistan is a must at this point. I think there's plenty of contractors and plenty of other allies that can help us do this job besides just us always hanging our hat on every single thing that we do here. And so we should have our stamp of approval from every other ally. We should do what we need to do to take care of our country and to make sure that our allies are doing well as well. But we need to get everybody that's over there that's causing bloodshed back here because of all the scandals that are happening. We don't need anybody in any harm's way because of that reason.
Okay, well, let me ask you, what's the report card for ending the war in Iraq?
I'd give it a C.
All right. And what's the report card for taking the troops out of Afghanistan?
When it's over, I'll give it the same number. Right now, it's an incomplete.
All right. Okay. Well, we'll see if we're still around, and we may do that again after they get out of Afghanistan. Number 6, according to the pundits of this article, the Obama administration's 6th greatest accomplishment was eliminating Osama bin Laden. In 2011, President Obama ordered special forces to conduct a raid of a secret compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan, in which the terrorist leader was killed, and a trove of al-Qaeda documents were discovered and taken possession of by special forces, and the CIA went through all of those documents with a fine-tooth comb. So, Jake, I say to you, was that an accomplishment of the Obama administration?
Okay, first of all, yes, it's accomplished on both Obama administration and the Bush administration, and I'll tell you why. Number 12, you said that Obama reversed Bush torture policies. Well, Obama condemned Bush, and he said he's not going to do same things that Bush did. But what Bush did, what Bush administration, let's not give credit to one person, because Obama didn't personally kill bin Laden. But what Bush did, he created tactics. They actually, if you look at it, they only did waterboarding on 2 or 3 occasions, not too many. So when they say it, media blows it up like Bush administration waterboarded the entire Afghanistan. I mean, in reality, what Bush administration did, they got intel that led to the capture of bin Laden. So if we're going to give credit, let's give credit to both. But here is something else that I saw and read in numerous places. Obama hesitated 3 times. 3 times he wasn't sure if he wants to go and do it, and the final decision was actually made by Leon Panetta. So if we're going to give credit in this, how about we give credit to Leon Panetta and Bush administration?
Okay, let me break it down then. What's the report card for the Bush administration on getting Mr. bin Laden?
I'd say he gets a B, because maybe some of the tactics I might agree with, I might disagree, but the job was well done.
And what about the Obama administration? What kind of report card do they get?
Let's give him a B. Let's give everybody a B. It was a great job on both sides, but the problem is it was not Obama personally. In fact, Obama condemned Bush for what he did. He won 2008 election because he separated himself from Bush, and then he used Bush tactics and Bush knowledge and Bush intel to take the credit. So,
well, what could the Obama administration have done better to get an A from you?
No, I mean, there is no A in here, because Obama, if Obama was straight up with American people, yes, Bush did a great job. Obama didn't give a single shred of credit to Bush administration with bin Laden. It was me, I said, I did. In the meantime, it was not even him, because he could not make a decision. He was nervous to make that decision.
Okay. Mike, what do you think? Was it an accomplishment or not an accomplishment for the Obama administration to kill Mr. bin Laden?
I think any high-value target such as Osama bin Laden is an accomplishment. I think that the way that it transpired was a great execution of orders. I think the way that they took care of it, flying over there with the helicopters and only have one single helicopter damaged, and get back to the States, or back to Afghanistan and then to the States, was a great heroic response by the SEAL Team 6. Those guys and the CIA lady that actually found out where he was, and his family. I think that they get the credit. I think that Obama is the person, like the principal at the school, that when somebody has a straight A student, that say that they can say, I did that. I made that person have straight A's because I have such a great faculty.
Of course, he did have to make the decision, and it was a little risky.
He did, but my issue is a little further. Once the SEAL Team 6 left, there was interviews given, and they wouldn't give their names, but the shooter spoke in anonymity and said that he retired from the Navy, and after they cut his benefits, they cut everything from him, and he actually is trying to change his name because he's in fear for his life, and people are trying to find out why he's in fear for his life, and he said because they wanted him to stay in for longer, and he wouldn't do it, and he was legally able to retire. I don't think that anybody that was the trigger man to take Osama bin Laden down should be treated like that at all.
I
And
agree.
it aggravated me. And the guy that's dancing around saying he wrote the book, that's not the guy that pulled the trigger. That's the guy that's going against his own team, telling everybody, "Hey, look at me. I'm gonna tell you the story." And even he got it wrong. He was the guy that opened the door, and the second guy in was the one that went in and actually pulled the trigger and took Osama bin Laden down. So from that standpoint, they did a great job. So for Obama, green light in the op. I think it was great. It was great instinct. So I give him a B for that. But in terms of the way that our troops are treated after wars is a completely different subject, and I'll let you talk about that later.
Okay. Well, number 6, the bin Laden accomplishment or not an accomplishment may not have been 100% suited for you, but I got one that's suited for you two guys to a T. These writers say, number 7, that the 7th greatest accomplishment of the Obama administration is turning around the United States auto industry. In 2009, the Obama administration injected $62 billion in federal money, on top of $13 billion from the Bush administration, into the ailing General Motors and Chrysler in return for equity stakes, meaning shares, and agreements for massive restructuring. Since bottoming out in 2009, the auto industry has added more than 100,000 jobs. The big three gained market share vis-a-vis the foreign automakers. And today, I read in the paper an interesting story. In Detroit, which is not exactly the most exciting city in America, there is a place on Jefferson Street, which was famous in the automotive industry up until about, 15, 20 years ago. And Chrysler has a plant where it makes Jeeps. And last year, that plant alone accounted for $2 billion of profit for the Chrysler Corporation. And it's given a lot of jobs. The unions, by the way, gave quite a few concessions. The average union laborer before the concessions was making $28 an hour. And the guys who were there are grandfathered in. They're still making quite a bit of money. But the newcomers, the new workers on the assembly line, because of the union concessions, are making $16 an hour. So the way this writer portrayed this article today, he made it sound like a success story. So having said all that, Jake, was it an accomplishment of the Obama administration to inject $62 billion in federal money into GM and Chrysler?
Absolutely not, Jim. Absolutely not. I'll tell you why. First of all, you said that they created jobs, and maybe they created some jobs, but first they lost a lot of jobs. Because what they did, they didn't cut out the loose and unnecessary weight. What they did is government bought their shares into American companies, and the government told the companies how to run their business. Now, the government does not run the government efficiently. What they did, they closed down about 1/3 of the plants, 1/3 of the dealerships. They laid off 120,000 people just from GM alone. Now, if they hired some people, let's count those numbers and put those numbers in perspective. So you say 100,000 between all the companies. So would it be fair to say that GM might have hired, let's say, 60,000, but they fired about 120,000. So we're still minus 60,000 jobs for GM alone. Now, we did that for auto industry, and auto industry so far has not paid a penny back. And when they say that the auto industry is in the profits and they're making this great money, they got $62 billion, like you said. So they paid some of the money back from the second stimulus, and the government says, look, they're doing great because they're paying back the loan to taxpayers. They haven't paid anything, because if I give you $1 and you say, oh, I have $1, and tomorrow I give you another $1 and you give me back 50 cents, you haven't paid me back. And that's what they did.
Okay. Well, what's your report card, Jake?
I mean, the government introducing themselves into American business, that goes without saying. F minus.
F minus. Okay, Mike. These writers say the Obama administration turned around the United States auto industry. What's your take on that?
Well, I think that General Motors turned into government motors. To me, spending $62 billion and pretty much ruining a city of Detroit to where they're bulldozing neighborhoods right now. Yeah, they may have sold automobiles, but when you take a family versus a vehicle and you weigh that out a little bit, the family should come first. And now there's people that don't have jobs whatsoever, and people that the suicide rates went up, unemployment rates went down, poverty levels through the roof, and there's all kinds of things that are happening. But as long as somebody can sell their Jeep, they're okay. And to me, that's a wrong tactic to make sure that these huge automobile industries are there. If they would have partnered with somebody else that had a stake in the game, such as they knew how to run a business instead of trying to run a government, then I might have saw it a different way. But the way that it was handled, it was kind of sucked up and from the government, and then they kind of laid out the rules, and now GM would be probably inching by if they even got some of the interest paid on this. But they'll be selling cars for the rest of their life, and the government will still continue to own part of their company for the rest of GM's life.
Mike, I'm going to give you an interesting scenario that came across my show last week, which I didn't know about. In Moscow, which is the capital of Russia, there are either 3 or 4 airports, okay? And of those airports, all of them have some degree of private ownership. That struck me as unusual because if you look at the Miami International Airport or the Atlanta Airport or LaGuardia or JFK, they're owned by the cities in which they're located. And I was surprised in a country like Russia that you would have private ownership of an entity which historically, traditionally, I think Americans have always thought of as being run by the government. On the other hand, the government in Russia is an equity owner in various oil companies, Rosneft and Gazprom in Russia. So you have sort of a strange mix over there. It's a little bit different, okay? So am I taking from you that you do not like it when the government gets mixed up in private enterprise? But I have to question, what is the definition of private enterprise over in Russia? They're saying that airports and major cities are private enterprises. I'm a little confused. Do you understand what I'm saying? Maybe.
I understand what you're saying. It's kind of like they're saying that in order for a Boeing to land on their airport, they're going to have a stake in the game. I mean, that makes sense to me. But when you have a vehicle that's completely, that somebody makes this vehicle, and there's people in the game that actually do this for a living, and then you take it and put it all in the government. It's the private sector is something completely different. So for these airports, they have to have some sort of private enterprise because of the fact that you have private, you have commercial, you have government, all types of different aircrafts landing on these airstrips. So, for somebody to say that it's just run by a private entity, that may be true, but there's also people that have a stake in that airport because they take it for travel.
Yeah, I see what you mean, but what I'm talking about is they actually own the land, the actual airport itself, not just the terminals or the places where they're repaired or.
Well, can I intervene for a second?
Yes.
Is it Agenda 21?
Well, can I just intervene? Let's take Russia for example, and going back a few years, Russia was all run by government. So even though we have people who are extremely rich in Russia, and in Russia right now, rich people mostly, and politicians, they're all, how should I put it lightly, they're gangsters. I mean, they might be very wealthy, very successful, but they still grab power, not going legally every single time, most of the time not. So is it safe to say that since Russia opened up the private enterprise and it was owned by government, that some of the private enterprise jumped in and shook hands with the government and bought into some of that, but the government still holds some of the stake in what they already owned before? I mean, that's basically what it looks like.
Yeah.
Well,
It's all has to do with
my
foreign
question
trade.
to you is, What do you think of this mixture of government and private companies operating concerns together?
See, in Russia, I mean, everything is a step forward for Russia because before government owned everything, and we saw how miserable everybody were, how lack of everything they had. So now that some people actually care about the business, and let me tell you, I mean, if you take Putin, for example, he's an entrepreneur, even though he wants Stalinism back and he has all this power still. He's an entrepreneur himself. So he sees it as an opportunity for him to shake hands with few good businessmen, make money, as long as they don't step on his toes. So for them, it works. For America, America was created as the most unique model, a free enterprise. Before, like first part of 20th century, we truly had the free enterprise model, and the government stayed out. Actually, President Cleveland, Grover Cleveland, he was offered to help the farmers, and he was a Democrat, and that Democrat realized that it was a mistake for federal government to get involved in a free enterprise. So he said there is no way a federal government should get involved in any business. And let me tell you, a lot of churches and a lot of different foundations, they got together and they raised money for the farmers, and they actually gave them more money than the government would ever be able to. And the tax money was not used. It was all out of the goodness of people's heart. And people are good as long as government stays out of their business. And they saved the farming business. And Cleveland said was right. I mean, he was absolutely right. So the government should not get involved. In the American model, it worked until government started to grab more and more chunks out of the business.
Okay, Mike, what was your grade for bailing out the auto industry, A to F?
I'm going to give it a strong D.
Okay. We're going to skip over 8 because it's too dry and too boring for a talk show. Let's go to number 9, which has some grit to it, some excitement. The Obama administration was around when the don't ask, don't tell, I think that was created in the Clinton administration, policy was repealed. Now gay people can openly serve in the military. Jake, an accomplishment or a blunder?
Neither, because I look at it as a social point. You want to be gay, you want to serve our country, God bless you. That's all I have to say.
Okay.
That's it. It's a social point. It's not a fiscal issue. It
So
has nothing to do.
you don't grade them one way or the other?
I can't grade this issue because, listen, you want to serve our country, you can be gay, straight, whatever you want to do. I mean, as long as you're a patriotic American, it honestly is a social point. It's not a fiscal issue that's ruining our country.
Okay, Mike, I'm not certain that I agree with Jake's analysis, okay? What that it's not something to be looked at as an achievement or a blunder of the Obama administration. What do you think? Was it a blunder? Was it an accomplishment, or was it, as Jake said, neither of the two?
Look, I respect Jake's opinion, but if I'm looking at this from my standpoint, my personal standpoint, my personal beliefs, I believe that a man and a woman are designed to, procreate and be create a family. I don't think that gay people or lesbians, as it says here in the actual article, I don't think they should be trying to represent a patriotic place in order to fight our battles for us. I think that they need to, first and foremost, they need to really understand who they are, and don't ask, don't tell. I think it was probably better that people didn't know that they were gay or not, and you don't ask, you don't tell. And so, because it creates a kind of a ripple, and it also, from what I understand, rapes have went up higher since that was repealed in the military. So that, so based on my religious beliefs, I don't believe that, that you should be gay. That's just my personal beliefs, no attack on anybody. That's just what I believe. And I think that the way that things are kind of transpiring now, I think that the don't ask, don't tell should probably have been implemented and stayed in the way it should have been, just so people would not suffer as much, because let's face it, predominantly the military is, heterosexual and not homosexual or not lesbians or whatever the case may be. Therefore, they will be picked on a little more, which I don't advocate and I don't advertise at all. And anybody that does it should be ashamed of themselves. Rapes, all that stuff, it's just going up. So I think the Don't Ask, Don't Tell should have been right where it was, and no one should have said a word, so that they could focus on their enemies instead of trying to create new ones amongst the ranks.
What's your grade?
My grade is I'd have to give it another D.
Okay. Number 10, Jake sort of went over. Number 11 is still ongoing right as we speak, sort of in a roundabout way. Number 12 has some juice to it. You guys, this is a juicy one for you. The Obama administration reversed the Bush torture policies. 2 days after taking office, the Obama administration nullified Bush-era rulings that had allowed detainees in U.S. custody to undergo certain enhanced interrogation techniques, which were considered inhumane under the Geneva Conventions. I believe what they're basically talking about is waterboarding. And the Obama administration also released the secret Bush legal rulings, which supported the use of those techniques. Okay, Jake, this is one you can get your teeth into. What do you think about the Obama administration reversing the Bush policies on enhanced interrogation?
Okay, first of all, Obama ran on part of that torture is not good. We're not supposed to torture. Like I said before, historically, there were maybe 3 cases where they actually used those. And it's according not just to CIA, but to whistleblowers and to inside information that there were only maybe 3, one of which, or maybe even more than one of which, led to bin Laden capture or bin Laden assassination. So now, if Obama's going to take the credit, shouldn't he at least say where he got the information? And the information came from so-called torture, which in reality, they were techniques used on only maybe several occasions to get very critical, very important, very serious information that we needed to capture the most biggest terrorist in the world. So, I mean, did Obama do anything by eliminating those techniques? What they did do, they actually tried to prosecute some of the CIA personnel for using those techniques while they were legal to begin with. So if Obama wanted to repeal them, fine. I mean, that's his prerogative. But he took credit for bin Laden, and he was going to prosecute some of the people rather than terrorists who were trying to aim a gun at America. I think it's a disgusting way to do things. And, he condemned Bush for something that he took credit for.
Jake, we've only got 2 minutes left. Give me your scorecard on ending enhanced interrogation.
I mean, the guy took the credit for techniques that helped him, so I give him a second grade smack on the butt and maybe put him in the corner.
Okay. All right. Okay, Mike, we only got about 2 minutes left. Do you think it was an accomplishment for the Bush administration to end enhanced interrogation?
Obama or Bush?
Obama, to end it.
Okay, well, first of all, I think that Obama, for him ending any type of torture was a good thing, but we're talking about people that are starving themselves to death, and we're force feeding them, and they're claiming that to be torture. I know there's waterboarding, and there was some terrible pictures taken with people on a leash. Dog leash, and then walking them back and forth, during cameras and stuff like that. But, for what they do to Americans and things, I won't go into explicit detail, but I think that this was a playground for them, and that was just something they could throw at the Bush administration to make them feel that we were doing something terribly wrong whenever they do things to their own people much worse. So at the end of the day, reversed the torture policies. I think it was a good thing that anybody being tortured shouldn't be allowed. Enhanced interrogation techniques where the line bleeds to gray there, I'm not sure. So I think it was good that any type of torture was taken away.
Well, we've only got a few seconds, but I have to ask you, is waterboarding torture?
I think it would be. I think waterboarding would be torture, depending on how long they think they feel like they're drowning. I mean, my father used to grab me by my legs when I was younger and hold me underwater to make me hold my breath. Of course, he's retired military, but that's just the things he used to do to get me. So I was go surfing when I got older, and I could hold my breath for a long time. I think it was like 3.5 minutes is the longest I've been able to hold my breath. So if you waterboard somebody to the point to where they die, and then you have to bring them back to life, that is definitely torture.
Okay. Well, he was just giving you some swimming instruction, really. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Guys, I want to thank you for coming on the show. We got a whole bunch of Obama accomplishments to go over on the next show. You don't give too much praise for these accomplishments, but it is what it is. So I want to thank you for coming on the show.
Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
i-netradio.com. i-netradio.com.
A rock to stand, proud and divine.